Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare
Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes to Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Richa Mataji, whenever you're ready, you can start, Mataji.
Yes, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna, everyone. And let me start with the prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayam Namaskrityam Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Udayate. Naste Prayeshu Abdreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavate Uttamam Shloke Bhaktir Bhavati Nashtiki. We are reading from Canto 4, chapter 13, text 25. Text 25. Sri Maitra replied, My dear Vidura, once the great king Anga arranged to perform the great sacrifice known as Ashwamedha. All the expert Brahmanas present knew how to invite the demigods, but in spite of their efforts, no demigods participated or appeared in that sacrifice. Text 26. The priest engaged in the sacrifice then informed King Anga, O king, we are properly offering the clarified butter in the sacrifice, but despite all our efforts, the demigods do not accept it. Text 27. O king, we know that the paraphernalia to perform the sacrifice is well collected by you with great faith and care and is not polluted. Our chanting of the Vedic hymns is also not deficient in any way, for all the Brahmanas and priests present here are expert and are executing the performances properly. Text 28. Dear King, we do not find any reason that the demigods should feel insulted or neglected in any way, but still the demigods who are witnesses for the sacrifice do not accept their shares. We do not know why this is so. Text 29. Maitreya explained that King Anga, after hearing the statements of the priest, was greatly aggrieved. At that time, he took permission from the priest to break his silence and inquired from all the priests who were present in the sacrificial arena. Text 30. King Anga addressed the priest's order. My dear priest, kindly tell me what offense I have committed. Although invited, the demigods are neither taking part in the sacrifice nor accepting their shares. Text 31. The head priest said, O king, in this life we do not find any sinful activity, even within your mind. So you are not in the least offensive. But we can see that in your previous life you performed sinful activities due to which, in spite of your having all qualification, you have no son. Text 32. O king, we wish all good fortune for you. You have no son, but if you pray at once to the Supreme Lord and ask for a son, and if you execute the sacrifice for that purpose, the enjoyer of the sacrifice, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, will fulfill your desire. Text 33. When Hari, the supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices, is invited to fulfill your desire for a son, all the demigods will come with him and take their shares in their sacrifice. Text 34. The performer of the sacrifices under Karmakand activities achieves the fulfillment of the desire for which he worships the Lord. Text 35. Thus, for the sake of a son for King Anga, they decided to offer oblations to Lord Vishnu, who is situated in the hearts of all living entities. Text 36. As soon as the oblation was offered in the fire, a person appeared from the fire altar wearing a golden garland and a white dress. He was carrying a golden pot filled with rice boiled in milk. Text 37. The king was very liberal, and after taking permission from the priest, he took the preparations in his joint palms, and after smelling it, he offered a portion to his wife. Hare Krishna. Over to you, Prabhuji.
Yeah, thank you so much, Richa Mataji. Hare Krishna. Yeah, Krishna Prabhu, when you're ready, you can start, Prabhuji.
Okay, Prabhu. Thank you very much, Prabhu. Are you able to hear, Prabhu?
Yes, Prabhu. Clear, Prabhuji.
Thank you, Richa Mataji, for reading the today's Bhagavatam section translations. So I'll start with prayers. ओम अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सारस्वती देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिण्ये निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Thank you all for joining. Thank you Sundarana Prabhu for giving this opportunity. So today we are reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 4, Chapter 13, title Description of the Descendants of Dhruva Maharaj, and from slokas 25 to 37. So just to give a background, in the previous chapter we heard how Dhruva Maharaj led his life with the principles of Yukta Vairagya, like whatever the previous pious activities that he had. So with that, whatever the good results that he is getting, like either wealth or name or fame or any material appliances, so he used them in the service of Krishna by performing many yajnas to please Lord Vishnu, or by giving charities to the saintly people or brahmanas or to the people who need. They ruled the kingdom for 36,000 years very nicely. Then he retired from the family life, and he made his son as an emperor and left to forest so that he can completely focus on the spiritual practice. Then we heard how he practiced sincerely and seriously in the path of bhakti yoga, and then we heard all the symptoms of liberation exhibited in him. At that time an aeroplane came from Vaikunta, and these two beautiful associates of Lord Vishnu in that plane invited Dhruva Maharaj to enter into the aeroplane, and then they'll take Dhruva Maharaj to the abode of the Supreme Lord Vishnu. So then we heard how Maitreya Muni mentioned that Narada Muni went to the sacrificial area of the Prachetas, like that. Then Vidura inquired who are these Prachetas and what did Narada Muni narrated to the Prachetas about the transcendental pastimes of the Supreme Lord, like that. Then Maitreya Muni started narrating the Dhruva Maharaj dynasty in this chapter. So like how he had a son Utkala, who is a great devotee, but from the birth onwards, so he was not interested in the material appliances or activities. So then the ministers made Utkala Sangrapadar Vacha as an emperor, and then we heard the dynasty of the Vacha in the last section. So then we also heard in the dynasty there is a king called Anga who has a crooked son Venu. So on how the sages cursed him to death, and then the sages seeing the kingdom without any king, then the sages churned the body of the king Venu. So then Maitreya Muni mentioned how the partial representation of the Supreme Lord Krishna, who is Prithu Maharaj, appeared. So then Vidura inquired how this great king Anga got a crooked son, like that. So today we'll hear from there. So in the text 25, we see that Maitreya Muni narrating to Vidura, so explaining how this great king Anga got a crooked son. So he's saying that the great king Anga so arranged a great sacrifice known as Ashwamedha. So one time he arranged a great sacrifice, Ashwamedha Yajna, and all the expert brahmanas present knew how to invite the demigods. But in spite of their efforts, the demigods did not came and participated. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that performing a Vedic sacrifice is not an ordinary thing. So they have to have an exalted brahmanas who can invite the demigods so that they can come and participate in the yajna. and also they have to give an animal. This is Aswanada Yajna. So Aswanada Yajna means generally they sacrifice a horse, not for the eating purpose, to test their mantras, or this horse will get a new and better life after the sacrifice is completed. So, and this pastime is happened in Satyuga. So, and during that time, there are qualified brahmanas who can perform these yajnas and who can invite the demigods to come and participate. Of course, now we are in the age of Kali, so Kali Yuga. So now there are no qualified brahmanas to perform these kind of sacrifice. So that's why the yajna that is prescribed for this Kali Yuga is Sankirtana yajna. So to chant the holy name of the Supreme Lord Hari. Kalau tad Hari Kirtana. So chanting of the Hare Krishna Mahamantra is the prescribed yajna for the Kali Yuga. And whoever chants the Hare Krishna Mahamantra in this Kali Yuga, the holy name of the Supreme Lord Hari, so they would get the same results which were equivalent to the whatever the this Vedic sacrifice performed in the Satyuga. Whatever the results will come, the same results will come just simply by chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. So this is a great benediction of the for the people of Kali Yuga. Sasti Eko Mahaguna. So even though Kali Yuga has so many faults, but Bhagavatam mentions that this is the great benediction. Kirtanada eva Krishnasya Mukta Sangha Param Rachet. So just by simply chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra, so one would make their life successful. So to perform these sacrifices, one has to need so much money, and they have to have a qualified brahmanas, so many things. But to perform this Sankirtana Yajna, one doesn't need all these things. So just wherever they are, they can just simply chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. Then that would make their life successful. So this is the great benediction of Kali Yuga. So it's available. So whoever can take advantage of this, they can perfect their life. So in the text 26, so Maitreya Muni is narrating that the priests engaged in the sacrifice then informed King Anga that they are properly offering the clarified butter, but despite all of their efforts, the demigods are not accepting. So here we see that priests are doing whatever they can do, whatever the ability that they have, but the demigods are not coming and accepting. So in the text 27, so that the priests are saying that they have know that the paraphernalia to perform this sacrifice is collected by the king with great faith and care and not polluted. And also not only that, the chanting of Vedic mantras done by these brahmanas are not deficient. For all the brahmanas, priests present are expert and are executing the performance properly. So as we discussed, the brahmanas who are performing these Vedic sacrifices, they are supposed to chant the Vedic mantras with the proper accent and accurately. So here they are saying that they are doing it without any deficient. So if somebody doesn't properly pronounce the Vedic mantra, then the result will not be as expected. So this we see in the pastime, one of the pastime that is mentioned in Srimad Bhagavatam. So when the discussions came about Chitraketu Maharaj, then how he took the birth of Vritrasura. So in that pastime, we see that there is this Brahmana, Twasta. So he performed an yajna for what purpose? To create a powerful personality who can kill Indra. So because Indra killed his son Vishwarupa. So Twasta performed this yajna to get a personality who can kill Indra. So for that he has to chant a specific mantra so that the personality who can kill Indra can appear from that Vedic sacrifice. So that specific mantra is Indra Satro. So that means who can kill Indra. So that's he has to pronounce in a shorter way, Indra Satro, but he has pronounced in a longer manner, Indra Satro, like that. So he pronounced in a longer manner. So that the meaning of that longer pronunciation is, so a personality will appear, but that personality will killed by Indra. So the aim of the Twasta performing this yajna is to create a personality who can kill Indra, but because of his pronunciation is not accurate, so a personality appeared who is killed by Indra. So instead of killing Indra, so personality appeared who will be killed by Indra. So the because of that mispronunciation or pronunciation is not accurate, the expected result is entirely changed. So that's why these expert brahmanas are required to perform these five sacrifices very properly. Otherwise, whoever is performing, so they will not get the expected results. Sometimes it is entirely reverse. But we are fortunate that taking the birth in this Kali Yuga, because this Sankirtan Yajna or chanting of Hare Krishna Mahamantra, even though they haven't chanted properly, so still the performer or the person who is chanting will get the benefit. In Bhagavatam, it is mentioned that Sanketyam Parihasyam va Stobam Helanam Eva va Vaikuntanam Grahanam Asheshaga Haram Vidu. Like even somebody chants the holy name indirectly, like instead of chanting the Hare Krishna Mahamantra pointing to Krishna, but if they chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra or chant the holy name of the Supreme Lord Hari, calling someone, like in the case of Ajamila, he called, he chanted Narayana just to call his son, but he got great benefit. So similarly, if somebody is chanting the holy name of the Supreme Lord Hari jokingly, or just to have some musical entertainment, or even neglectfully, but still they will get the benefit of it. So, and it's mentioned that they will immediately freed from the reactions of unlimited sins. And this is accepted by all the learned scholars. So there is a great benefit of chanting this Hare Krishna Mahamantra, but not that one should chant in a neglectful mood or manner like that. So we try to chant in an attentive manner to please Supreme Lord Krishna. But even if somebody chants inattentively, but still they will get benefit. But one should try to chant attentively. So we can think about, like, if we chant the Hare Krishna Mahamantra attentively, how much benefit we'll get it. So in the text 28, the priests are telling that we don't find any reason that the demigods should feel insulted or neglected in any way, but still the demigods who are witness for the sacrifice do not accept their share, and we do not know why this is so. And Prabhupada mentions that from this sloka, we see that the priests, if they don't do the things properly, then it is an offense towards the demigods. So then they don't come and accept their share, or they don't come and accept it. So, and here the priests are thinking that they haven't done anything wrong. So similarly, Prabhupada mentions that while we are doing deity worship, either in the temple or anywhere, so if we don't perform the deity worship in a proper way, so then that's called seva aparadha. So if we do the seva aparadas, or we don't plan to improve our quality of deity worship, then Krishna also will not come and accept our bhoga offering, whatever the bhoga that we are offering. So Krishna will not come and accept. So we should improve our increase our quality of deity worship, or cooking and offering the bhoga to Krishna. So with love and devotion, like that. And then in text 29, Maitreya Muni explaining that King Anga, after hearing the statements of the priest, he became unhappy, and that time he took permission from the priest and broke his silence. And then he inquired from the all priests who were present in the sacrificial area. Prabhupada mentions that looks like so whoever is performing the yajna, so they will be in the silence mode until the yajna is completed. So here we see that King Anga hearing the statements of the priest, with the permission of the priest, he broke the silence and started inquiring what is going on wrong, or where did they do wrong. So this is also one of the lesson or instruction for a sadhaka. Like for a time to time, we also need to check ourselves to see how are we progressing in Krishna consciousness. So are we progressing time to time, or at least are we not falling down? Just make sure that we are not falling down. So instead, we are progressing in the path of bhakti. Of course, I'm talking to myself. So in the text 30, so King Anga, so is addressing the priestly, the brahmanas, that so to kindly tell what offense I have committed. So although the demigods are invited, but they're not coming and taking part, and they're not accepting their shares. So in the text 131, so here we see that the head priest is saying, the king, in this life we don't find any sinful activity, even within the mind. So, but in the previous life, you performed sinful activities, and because of that reason, you have no son. Even though you have all qualification, you have no son. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that if a person doesn't have a son, that's probably it's because due to his past sinful life. And because the purpose of marrying is to get a son, so that he can deliver from the parents from the hellish planet. So Putra means who can deliver from the Punna Manaraka, like that. That's why it is called Putra. And Chanakya Pandita also says that Putra Hinam Gruham Sunyam, like, without a son, the Gruha or the family life is a Sunyam, like that. But to have the son, one should have the pious credit. Otherwise, one doesn't have a son like that. Of course, the kids of the Kali Yuga, I don't know how much they will deliver the parents from the hellish planet. But it is also to the parents to train the kids in such a way that they can help us to progress in the path of bhakti, or to deliver us from the hellish planet. So in the text 32, you see that, O king, we wish all good fortune for you, and you have no son, but if you pray to the Supreme Lord and ask for a son, and if you execute the sacrifice for that purpose, the enjoyer of the sacrifice, the Supreme Personality Godhead, will fulfill your desire. So here we see that Krishna is the enjoyer of the sacrifice. Krishna is the enjoyer of all the sacrifices. And here the Brahmanas are mentioning to perform a sacrifice for the purpose of getting a son. So of course, this is could be a material desire. But still, when someone has a material desire but approach Supreme Lord, so not only their desires will be fulfilled, but they will also be purified. So in Bhagavatam, it is mentioned that akama sarva kama moksha kama. Like, even though someone has no desires, no material desires, or they have many material desires, or the desire for liberation, but one should approach Supreme Lord and please him, so that their desires will be fulfilled. Not only that, they will progress in the path of bhakti. So we see from the past time of Dhruva Maharaj in the last section, right? So Dhruva Maharaj actually performed tapasya, austerity, great austerity, for the purpose of getting a greater kingdom than his great grandfather, who is Lord Brahma. So he worshipped with that purpose to Lord Vishnu. So during that process, so the Lord Vishnu appeared, and then he gave that benediction. He fulfilled Dhruva Maharaj's desire to get the greater kingdom than his great grandfather. Not only that, so his devotional service has been increased, or he got purified, and he got the pure devotion in his life. So then we heard how he went back home, back to Godhead by practicing that pure bhakti. So similarly, we continue our sadhana of chanting Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, though we have many material desires. Slowly our material desires will be reduced, and whatever the desires we have will be fulfilled, and then we become purified, and then we develop attraction to Krishna. So, and in the text 33, we see that when Hari, the supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices, is invited to fulfill your desire for a son, all the demigods will come and take their share in the sacrifice. So here we see that again, it's mentioned the supreme enjoyer of all sacrifices. So like Bhoktaram Yajna Tapasa. So Krishna is the enjoyer of all sacrifices. So one should perform the yajna to please Krishna, not for their own sense gratification. Because in Bhagavad Gita we see that when we perform the yajna for the pleasure of Krishna, then we are not bound by the reactions. Otherwise, we'll be bound by the reactions of our activities. Yajnardhat karmano anyatra lokayam karma bandhana. Like when we perform the activities for the pleasure of Krishna, then it will not create any bondage. So another point, Prabhupada mentions that when Lord Vishnu, when he comes, all the demigods also will come with him and take their share in the sacrifice. And many places, Prabhupada also mentions that he gives analogy like, when you pour the water to the root of the tree, how all the branches and the leaves or twigs and everything of the connected to the tree are nourished. So similarly, when we please Krishna with our activities, then all the demigods, not only demigods, all the living entities are also pleased. So if we can do that, our activities, if we can make or we can mold our activities to please Krishna, so then everything will become perfect. So in the text 34, the performer of the sacrifice under karma kanda activities achieves the fulfillment of the desire for which he worships the Lord. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that so when whoever approaches with whatever the desire to Krishna, then Krishna will reciprocate in the same way. Like he mentions in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna mentions in Bhagavad Gita, Eya tamam prapadyante tam stataiva bhajami. Like someone approaches Krishna to overcome whatever the distress condition that they are going on, then Krishna will reciprocate like that. He will relieve them from the distress. Or someone is approaching Krishna for the some material wealth or name and fame or some good progeny, etc., then Krishna will reward them accordingly. And Prabhupada mentions that Krishna gave independence for the living entity, so to act in their own way, whatever the way that they are looking for. But the devotee, instead of acting their own way or for the pleasure of their senses, so he surrenders to Krishna, so that Krishna will take in charge of them. And then he will guide that devotee, or he will inspire in such a way that he will perform his activities so that he can go back home, back to God. So which is the perfection of the life and solution for all the miseries of in this life. So that's one thing as a practicing devotee, thank to myself. So we approach Krishna. If we can approach Krishna or perform our activities for the pleasure of Krishna, then all our problems will be solved. And in text 35, we see that the Brahmana say that thus for the sake of son for King Anga, so they decide to offer oblations to Lord Vishnu, who is situated in the hearts of all living entities. And Prabhupada mentions in the purport that there's a word called Sipi. Sipi means the flames of the sacrifice. So in the sacrificial fire, if the oblations are offered into the flames, then the Lord Vishnu is situated there in the form of the flames. So that's why the another name of Lord Vishnu is called Sipivista. Like that. And Lord Vishnu, we know that, is situated in the heart of all the living entities as a Paramatma. And then in text 36, you see that as soon as the oblations were offered in the fire, a person appeared from the fire altar wearing a golden garland and a white dress, was carrying a golden pot filled with rice boiled in milk. So this is the result of the performing the yajna for the pleasure of Krishna. So, and last sloka of for today's section, text 37. And here the king Anga, he was very liberal after taking permission from the priest. So he took that preparation, the rice boiled in milk. And then after smelling it, he offered a portion to his wife. And here it is mentioned that king is very liberal. Prabhupada mentions in the purport, what does that mean? And there is the word called udharadi. Udharadi means very liberal. So because king has a wife, her name is Sunita. So though she was not fit to accept this benediction or this rice boiled in milk that is given by the person who appeared from this sacrifice. So she is not fit to accept this benediction, but king, because he's very liberal, so he gave it to his wife without any hesitation. Prabhupada mentions that so everything is done by the Supreme Lord, at least specifically in the case of the devotees, because we see in the later verses why this is done, so that this pastime is arranged in such a way that King Anga would get a cruel son, whose name is Venu, so that King Anga's detachment to this material world will be increased. So then he will leave home and go to forest and dedicate his life for the spiritual progress. So Prabhupada points that so Lord, the Supreme Lord will fulfill our desires, the devotees' desires, in such a way that even though it is material, in such a way that he gradually comes closer to him. So that is a great affection of the Supreme Lord for the living entities, especially for the devotees. So I'll pause it here for today. So in the next section, we will hear how the queen delivered to this King Venu, the cruel son, and we will hear about his cruel nature, and then how King Anga is very unhappy with his son's behavior, but he takes it as a positive and then leaves the home for spiritual advancement. So I'll pause it here. Thank you all for joining and giving this opportunity. Grandhara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai, Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vranda ki jai. Thank you, Prabhuji.
Yeah,
Hare
thank you.
Krishna.
Yeah, thank you, Krishna and Prabhuji, for a wonderful class.